the sacrifice for men is usually not found in sex, though.
But
The
see, that's
sacrifice for men is
exactly where
monogamy
y'all,
No, no, I
in
that's
wasn't
general.
where
saying
your
that.
power lies, though, too. Like
No,
how
no,
I'm
but
saying,
I wasn't saying sex. I was saying in terms of your boundaries being flexible. Your
I
boundaries
absolutely,
yeah,
can't be flexible.
I
That
believe so. I agree on the you have to. I agree on the sacrifice part, meaning a man will have to sacrifice. But what I think most men sacrifice for the marriage is their polyamory to be monogamous most of the time, or at least you're sacrificing your ability to. You're dedicating all of your resources into one house. Unfortunately for most men, you're never more attractive till after you're no longer available.
That's
So
a
you're
fact.
sacrificing a
but
lot.
that's the temptation. That's exactly what I was saying in terms of speaking to when women see a married man that seems like he's faithful and stuff like that.
Hmm.
They test it to see. There's some that will test it to see. That was what I was doing. Well, I was in my relationship, but I was testing to see. But I think what made me garner more respect for him is one, like you said, he wasn't, Inaz was saying, he wasn't flexible on his boundary. This is what he was
Yeah.
saying. But the other thing that made me have more respect for him is the fact that, like you said, Mike, sex is probably at the top of the list for every man, especially at that age, right? The fact that he was able to discipline himself in that area, which is the hardest area for most men, especially in your early 20s,
Hmm.
that one thing, since it was as huge as it was, it allowed me to also generalize in other areas about him before he even did anything else. It was like, damn, he was able to discipline himself, say he wasn't going to do it, stick to what he said he was going to do over sex, and he turned me down. Like one of those that it ended up being more of, well, if he could do that in regards to sex, then I know he means what he says when it comes to this or this or this or other things. So he set that foundation with my understanding of the type of person that he is based on that one thing, which had absolutely nothing to do with me. It was him being disciplined, me being able to observe it, and then see that he stands on what he say he stands on. And so that ended up transitioning into other areas.
I have a question. Do black men in particular, do you think that black men choose sex over family?
Choose sex over family.
No.
And I'm not talking about the
No,
majority because we know, but and the reason why I ask that is I look at marriage rates. And
no,
we're not talking about the few of you guys who are the exception to the rule. We're talking about the majority.
I would say no
no. The
still.
majority does not choose sex over family.
So why is the
What I
majority
will
not
say,
married?
is that sex is usually the cause of you having a family in the first place. Meaning you're gonna have to step up to the plate. Like, oh damn, you pregnant? Oh well, shit. And what we're really seeing today is a false narrative, because if men had the ability to be as involved as they wanted to be without women being able to usurp control over the children,
Okay, we're
right?
talking about, but they have control over marriage, right? We're talking about family, meaning a
Yeah.
married man, being a married man, the head of your household as a married man. Do
Yep.
you think that men are choosing sex
Oh,
over?
absolutely. We. Oh my God. You sacrifice, like the day you get married. Most men sacrifice sex in
Right, but
general.
majority are not married. That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
because majority are not married, do you think that majority of black men, because I would say that it's a temptation
Yeah.
for all races of men, would it not be? And they
Hmm.
don't seem to have a problem with still being marrying. So for let me specify African American men, do
Yeah.
you think that they're choosing sex over
No. No.
marriage?
The problem
Sure.
is very. The problem is very clear. Black men have no problem being married and following through on those traditions if those traditions were modeled for them. So that it's black men are not inherently more promiscuous than other men and will say, forget this whole marriage thing. Absolutely
So when
not.
you say
Hold
model
on, can I
for
add
them,
one thing to
why?
that?
Let me look real quick. When you say model for them, what is the difference between being model for them and any other race of people who marry in the United States?
They have more fathers in the home. Therefore, they are the product of more married parents. Therefore, they value and get married. They value marriage
Oh,
and get married.
Okay, and I want to add this to as a caveat to what Mike was saying. I think that because we are seen as like the culture or whatever, right? So we have a hyper masculinity culture and we have a hypersexuality culture within the women. And I heard Paris talking about this as far as who black women in general and black men in general like can just outright respect, right? I think the skill set required for our men to be able to, like you said, tame you or train you to be the type of woman that he wants to be with long term. I don't think in general most men possess the ability to draw those lines and get the results that you want out of a woman. And I think to this point, like with your husband, even if it was not you, I think you would have had that same result with any woman he dated, because it sounds like this is a character trait of him. And I question how we can model that as men in mass. And I kind of come up with like the my solution for everything. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Let me
I
let
would
me add this
say,
to. Let me say this real quick, Harris. The worst part about what's going on with black men, let's say, is that most of us on this panel, I don't think the women, and I know no women on this panel tonight have done this sort of thing, but every dude on this panel has either been a cut buddy to a single mom who asked you to come over at a certain time of night because her son was asleep. And then you're leaving out or trying to get something out the fridge
but what does
and
this
you turn
conversation
around.
have to do with single moms?
No,
We're
no,
talking
no,
about
no.
women
This is what
who
I'm
don't
saying.
have
You
kids as well.
always cut me off when I'm trying to make the
Because
point.
you're trying to change the goal.
Hold
I'm talking
on,
about
no,
any
let me
woman.
finish. Let me finish the point. Then you turn around and that little boy's standing there. So I know that a lot of boys have been socialized that way from youth to say, well, shit, my mama did it. She had dudes coming through to the crib and whoop de whoop, and they end up being that dude. So when you say they're choosing sex, they think this stuff is normal because the woman they love most was doing it. She was an adult when she was doing it. She had a kid, she had a job, and she was a lady who could
Listen,
speak proper English. So I think a lot of black men are just basically suffering from that's what was modeled for them.
you're not
This
gonna sit
type of
here and
behavior.
tell me most black women was hoes to their sons. We're not gonna even put that out there
I,
in
I,
this.
I didn't call anybody a hoe. I think a
But
woman
you said
asking
most
a
black
man.
men that happened to them. They walked in on their mama and the man was walking out.
I'm not gonna lie. I think if 70% of black men alive today were raised by a single mother, then at least 50% of them heard their mom talking to some dude in the middle of the night. Probably heard them having sex too. I'm sorry.